Welcome to the Shedtime podcast. I'm Anthony Ramella, aka the CBD Candy Connoisseur, and Exotic Leaf and I are proud sponsors. I gotta be blunt, folks, this show is dope.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shedtime podcast, the shedliest podcast in the interweb. And if you don't know what shedliness is, well, go out to your shed, get really stoned, and you'll begin to understand. And I recommend going out to your shed and getting stoned for this one, because today we brought with us Tyler Morrison, and we are going to get out of fucking control. If you guys haven't heard his stand-up, you guys need to go look him up. Tyler Morrison's, what was the name of the stand-up again? I just drew a blank.
Oh, the stand-up special is called Too Soon.
Too Soon. You guys gotta go take a look. If you're a fan of at least in my assessments, Gilbert Gottfried, Bob Saget, the old Howie Mandel stand-up, some George Carlin era, I think you're going to appreciate this man's work, but we'll get into more of that in just a little bit. First things first, I want to say hello to Tyler and welcome all the way from the Great White North.
Hey, thanks, man. It's great to be on the show. It's awesome.
Man, it's a real pleasure to have you. It's something we've been meaning to do is get some more comedians.
Nice.
All right. Oh, the vapor getting all up in the lungs. God damn. We're not even that lit yet.
Breathe, dude.
Yeah, shit. Damn. Anyway.
We still have a whole hour and a half to go, bro.
Yeah, with that, I'm going to just shut the fuck up and give it to one of the boys and throw it right into a buffet. So, James, what did you bring with you today?
All right, what's going on, Shedheads? Thank you guys for tuning in on Shedtime Sunday, my favorite day of the week because I get to kick it with the boys, get high. And today we get to talk about comedy, which is one of my absolutely favorite things. Because if you guys don't know me, then you guys probably wouldn't know that I love to laugh. It's like one of my favorite things in the world, and I love to just sit back and watch stand-up, comedy specials. It's like one of my favorite pastimes. So I'm excited for tonight's episode, man. Definitely excited. But of course, for my little buffet of stuff I brought with me, I'm keeping it pretty short and sweet. As far as my vape setups go, I'm just rocking one thing. Got the Foxy one with the Druga RTA on top. Inside of it, I've got some mixed berry lemonade from my man Mitch and a single quad core AJ Holland coil. So shout outs to AJ. That's what I got going for my vapes. And as far as my cannabis selection goes for tonight, I went and stocked up this past week over at my favorite dispensary. Shout out Empire Twin Palms out there in Riverside. But I picked up a couple different strains. I'm gonna just stick with two for the podcast today. I've got a little bit of some strawberry cough drop and some Mac crossed with outer space, both of some live sugars. And I'm gonna be taking them out of my nice little blue diamond recycler rig. And I might even throw one down in good old Ted Scheim, a.k.a. my Puffco Peak. And with that, I'll throw it over to my man Ashton. What you got, bro?
Well, it's Shedtime Sunday, and I got a table full of fucking chronic. So I'm going to go into the chronic first. First off, I got some of that sour tangy. I should probably take a dab of that because I can't stop fucking yawning.
Yes.
Dude, that's what I did. I hit that fucking
tangy.
But then I also picked up some of this Fire Bros Space Cookies, which is a Space Force crossed with Fuji cookies. And I think James would like this. It's super gassy, super just fucking dank weed all up in your nostrils when you smell it, and it's not even weed. But then we roll into my jar that is weed. I got some cement shoes today, or yesterday. It's a animal cookies crossed with OGKB crossed with Wet Dreams, and it's tasting really good coming out of the Dynavaps. I haven't really given myself a couple bowls to really understand what's going on, but for the most part, it's fucking dank. And then last but not least, rolling into the vape buffet. Kind of rolling light today. I got that AP Merle's mod RDA for vaping on top. Inside, I got some hacked freeze tones. Is a 28 gauge with the wrap taken off. Inside, the fucking Smacks Cheese a Dime finally goddamn showed up after like 3 weeks of being in the mail. But yeah, we're here, we're doing it, and we have Tyler on. So with that being said, I'm gonna toss it off to Chris so we can get to hearing what this guy has to say.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, I'm excited about today, but I'm also like super high, like right away. Like I just rock some Dynavap, dude, and it's like instantly just like got me in like that smiley mood. So that's good for me. Yeah, that's definitely good for me. So yeah, the way that I got there is through the Dynavap. I got the Tectonic stem with the 2019 bowl, just a regular cap to cap. I'm rocking some shishka berry that I just picked up from the dispensary yesterday. You know what? It's good. I like
berry.
It's working. And when shit works, I like it. Like, that's basically how things work for me. It's like if it works, I'm like, I'm sold. I'll buy that again. And it tastes good too, which is a bonus. Speaking of tasting good, I'll just jump into my vape shit. So I got the layer cake on top of the Arcless V2 with a Copper Rose chop top. Got some Breeze Tones coils in here. And the flavor that it's a tester, everybody. So I'm not gonna spoil the profile, but it's tasting on point. Next setup, I got Dreamer 1.5 with the rye. Inside there, I got the AJ Colin 4 coils or four cores, and it's another tester. It's a different one that is also quite delightful. And that's everything for me. So Sean, take it away.
Sick. I mean, I'm just vaping on that same setup I had on the green room, so it's that Dreamer 1.5, the original recipe recoil loaded with Breeze Tone coils that we did when we had the build off. And inside of that is still vanilla custard from the homies over there at Steel Valley Vapor. Get that bottled Violence vanilla custard. Use Shedtime as your discount code and get 15% off over at Steel Valley Vapors. And then that's all I'm vaping on as far as cannabis is concerned. Got some fresh batch of the runts again, and God, I love the way that this shit tastes. Fire! So goddamn good. It's just fruity and a little bit gassy, and the weed itself is sticky. I'm rocking it out of the Dynavap, the Hydravong setup, and it's the 2019 cap and a titanium tip. And I'm also rocking it out of my oldest bowl probably left in my collection. This motherfucker has been with me since maybe high school, if I'm being honest, if not fresh out of high school. So I've had this thing a long time. It serves me well. It's still my favorite glass piece that I just love to reach for when I need something. And that's it for me. So just like everybody else, as you can see, we all want to get into this conversation. So just give us 1 second to let the sponsors speak, and we'll be right back.
Hey, bud, want to buy a dime bag? Then you better check out ExoticLeafUSA.com. They got Delta 8 THC Moonrock flower available now. Not into the whole flower thing? Then check out one of their phenomenal gummies like elderberry, dragonberry, grape, blue raspberry, and apple. They're lab tested and delicious. Check out ExoticLeafUSA.com today and live XL.
Dynavap, Dynavap, Dynavap. Looking to cut the cord on your dry herb vape? Dynavap. Trying to get the best taste from your herb? Dynavap. Ready to take your sesh to the next level? Then meet Dynavap, the best way to vape your flower or concentrate. Concentrates? That's right, your flower or hash can be vaped using Dynavap. Check out Dynavap.com to learn more. That's Dynavap.com. Lose the ash? Dynavap.
What's going on, Shedheads? It's your boy, Frames Janklin. Are you looking to step up your match game or have a raw copper, brass, or stainless mod or RDA that you're absolutely tired of polishing? Then you need to go and hit up my man Ashton of Palmer's Powders. He does some absolutely amazing powder coating work. He offers many different colors and finishes at an absolutely killer price. This man is taking powder coating to a whole new level, and he can make your setup an absolute masterpiece. You can go follow him over on Instagram at Palmer's Powders, and you can go check out pricing on his website, palmerspowders.com. That's palmerspowders.com. And as always, let's just vape on, Shedheads.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Sean Tyven, the Angry Hippie, and I'm back at it again. We're here today to talk about Unicorn Vapes Inc., a fantastic Canadian company who's making outstanding vape hardware. If you're looking for a fantastic, high-quality mechanical device or an excellent RDA, and you're looking for it at a fantastic and affordable price, look no further than Unicorn Vapes Inc. You can get your Unicorn Vapes Inc. products at areliquid.com. That's areliquid.com. Check them out today.
I want you to think of your favorite rebuildable right now. Yeah, okay, so you have a layer cake in your hand, and now you're about... Oh, sorry, yeah, that's not everyone's favorite. That's just mine. So think of your favorite rebuildable atomizer. Think about how good of a vape it produces for you. Now, take that and amplify it. And the way that you amplify that is you put in some Breezestone coils. Breezestone coils are handcrafted in Adelaide, Australia. They're made from some of the finest quality wire that you can get. I believe it's wire Buddha. You take those coils, you take them out of that phenomenal packaging that clearly shows how much care that Adam puts on the quality of his coils and the insurance that you get them in good shape. You put them in that favorite RDA, and guess what? You have coils that now sing better than Celine Dion. Go check out Breezestone coils. You can find them on localvape.com and also steelvalleyvapors.com. Solid.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And now, this is Shedtime. Sorry, I had to get all NPR on him just for a second. Just for 1 second. Because it's... Yeah, the NPR BBC is about to go right the fuck out the door starting now. If you have any sensitivities, I don't know what the fuck you're doing listening to the Shedtime podcast in the first place, but it's about to get raw. So, all right, let's get right into it. Tyler, how did this happen? How did you get to stand-up comedy? Because
how did you get the best job in the fucking world, bro?
Yeah, dude. Because I mean, lots of motherfuckers are funny, but how did you actually become a stand-up comedian?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I started out when I was 18, so I was just finishing high school. I went to there's a college program in Toronto at Humber College. It was called the Comedy Writing and Performance Program. And I was like, I saw this when I was in like 9th grade. I saw it in one of the college books. And I'm like, oh, this seems kind of cool. It had like Joe Flaherty from SCTV and Happy Gilmore was like one of the artists in residence there. And they have a whole bunch of different programs that are like sketch, improv, stand-up. And so it's a very wide variety of programs, writing for television, acting. So it's all kinds of stuff. And it looked kind of cool. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I was always writing jokes and stories and stuff like that. And I kind of wanted to be a stand-up comic. I loved Andrew Dice Clay. Andrew Dice Clay was an early favorite. Dude. Eddie Murphy, Raw, Delirious, all that stuff. You know, when you're kind of in your adolescence, those are comics that, you know, a young guy is probably going to get drawn to at the time. And I loved Dana Carvey, his HBO special. I think it's from 1995, maybe, where he's talking about the O.J. Simpson trial. It's amazing, right? Yep. So I just love that type of comedy. And I did love sketch comedy and Saturday Night Live and Kids in the Hall, all those type of things. And so I just geared myself all through high school. I didn't give a shit about high school. I went to high school with Chris at King City Secondary School.
Yeah, dude, KCSS.
Yeah, dude.
The entire time, like, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So I really wasn't, you know, too focused on math or
science. Like, I ain't gonna need this to tell jokes, man.
Mm-hmm. So when I did get into that, within the first 2 weeks of being in that program, you have to go on stage at the Yuck Yucks Comedy Club in Toronto in front of like 300 people and do a 3-minute performance. And it's crazy because, you know, if that's the first time you're doing stand-up, it's a huge adrenaline rush, and it could be kind of scary if you were nervous. I think I was too cocky at 18 years old to be nervous. And
still though, like 18 years old to go up in front of 300 people and tell jokes when you're just getting into it, like And
Well,
learning
yeah,
how
people
to
that are probably
implement things, that'd be difficult as fuck. I'd be scared shitless, personally.
Well,
When
I mean,
I was a menace. Like I didn't give a fuck. Like when I went on it, like I thought it's supposed to be like this. I should have this many people every night. Why am I not playing a stadium? I just go up and I actually did kill the first time I did stand up, which was insane because it's just such a huge adrenaline rush. And then you go out and you start doing the open mics and it's nothing like that. You start bombing all the time. And then it starts, then you figure out really who you are and okay, it is hard to, what happened the first time. That's like one of the rewards that you get for working these shitty bars and building your act. So, I kind of started off in like having that first performance it's almost like I was chasing the dragon for a long time. Trying to get that reaction again. But I mean, to be able to experience that for the first time, there's no better way to get hooked on it,
I feel like somewhere out in Toronto, there's these people who are just out there like, listen, I'm going to give you $100 in tickets to this comedy club, and you have to laugh at these kids no matter how bad these jokes are.
Don't dream crush, bro.
like literally, because think about it, right? The ultimate hustle. You just got him hooked. You just gave him the ultimate dopamine hit. His first time on stage, he's like, I fucking did it. Now he's hooked.
Trust me, if they could, if people could stop me from doing stand up back then, they would have.
But I think that's cool though to hear that little snippet, to understand that Canada actually has, programs and stuff that are educational. Like if you hear like comedians from America, it's like, it's endless open mic nights. There's no college program. There's no ushering in, the next comedian. It's just like, all versus all trying to make good content. So
if you're
that's
lucky,
really cool
you get
to
into
understand
a troupe.
that Canada actually has a basis to traject people into.
Well, that's yes and no. Okay, so in America, there's just way more opportunity for comedians. There's just so many more people and
many more cities, comedy clubs, etc.
The industry has to be competitive because there's more competition. In Canada, it's very much like, there's 6 to 10 things industry wise, and they can pick and choose and do whatever. They don't have to compete. They can just kind of do whatever they want. It's government regulated. A lot of the stuff, it's, like BBC, we have CBC in Canada. So it's kind of like government funded and all that. But in terms of, like the Humber program, yes, that was a great thing and it is because a lot of comedians from outside of the city, from like small towns and stuff, it kind of gave them a place to go to when you're coming from a small town to move to a big city and you don't know anyone. It kind of gives you like a community right away.
Yeah.
And
with the common interest. Yeah.
I was in a really good year with all these really good comics who are still, I'd say there's at least 10 of us that are still making, a living off of comedy from that year, from my college year, which is really cool to be part of that. It's a vacuum of creative people. So it was kind of like a Professor X Xavier's school for gifted.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because I mean, I think a lot of people have this idea that a stand-up comic gets up on stage, grabs a microphone, and just starts talking to the crowd, and they're funny, and that's just it. And like, as I understand it, like there's a lot of work that goes into crafting your flow of jokes for a stand-up routine. Can you even like walk us through a little bit of like what it's like to craft a joke from not funny to actually having it be funny?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what a good example of that would be. But basically, I mean, I'm just always writing. So if I'm talking to someone and I say something funny, I'm like, well, I better write that down or whatever. But and I write so much, like I can sit down and have a discipline and go, okay, I want to write a joke about this and go through and write a bunch of jokes about one topic. But I find if I just write naturally and just kind of free flow, I'll come up with the best stuff. And it's kind of about like organizing it after that. I think that's the key, is just write as much stuff as you can, and then recognize when something's good or recognize what this works for. So because I'm a edgier or dirty comic or dark comic, I tend to write a lot more in that vein of like those topics, right? I mine material from darker things. But if I do write a joke that's like, oh, that's a clean joke, I immediately put that in like a clean file, because I'm like, okay, this is like the 1 out of 20 that's clean that I wrote, and I'm like, okay, if I keep doing that, eventually that file will be full of clean jokes, and then I'll have enough stuff for a clean show, like a TV thing or whatever.
Yeah, you could actually be on your Canadian broadcasting.
Yeah, they still don't book me though.
Well, God forbid they should Google you and find out what you really do.
In theory, but then there's still corporate gigs and stuff like that. Those pay the bills pretty good if you can pick a few of those up. But you find yourself in all these different situations, and in Canada, because there isn't the spotlight really that's on us, you kind of have to get good at everything, and to survive, you have to be able to do everything. So you end up being a very well-rounded comic if you've been in the game for any length of years, doing comedy in this country. You end up doing every different type of fundraiser, corporate event, then you do the clubs and all that. Clubs are fun. I like clubs the best.
How many years have you been doing it out of college?
Ooh, I guess I'm like closing in on 19 years.
Wow, 19 years being a comedian. That's rad.
I started in 2002, the fall of 2002. So I was 18 when that went
So
down.
when you go up to do like a skit, and like we were talking before we jumped in, and like with like the emotions that you get from the crowd and stuff, like how many times do you go up, do your skit, and then like somebody spits something off in the crowd, and that just kind of, does that like help you kind of just like Hail Mary through the rest of your set and like make it more intense? Or do you still kind of stay organized and like just like, hey, shut the fuck up?
Yeah, I like to shut them down, because you know what? It's fun to play around a little bit, and I think the crowd likes to see that you can play around a bit. But also, they came to see a show. They didn't come to just see this idiot get attention that's yelled out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that person is disrupting a planned performance of some sort. So it's good to acknowledge what's going on and have some fun in the moment, but also I don't like to I don't like when they interrupt a joke or screw up a joke. They have to be punished for that.
Yeah.
So you said before though that like it took you a bit of time to realize like your style kind of thing. How did you go about that? Were you just like writing any joke that you thought was funny, and then it kind of turned into like, well, I feel like these like darker and like kind of risque jokes that I tell get the best reactions, and I seem to come up with them a lot. This must be my style. Is that kind of, do you have like that revelation where you're like, okay, this is what I am?
I think I knew that before. No, I think I knew that right away, Chris. Like I knew my style. I knew what I wanted to do. The special that I just did, the Too Soon one, is exactly the special I would have wanted to do at 18 that I wasn't good enough to do yet. And it's just kind of, I always knew that I wanted to be in this, do that style. But in Canada, again, I find it's not as rewarded. The darker comedy doesn't get the love that in the States, some of the biggest comedians are dark and dirty, and they're the best, right? They're the one. And so in Canada, we look at American comics and we watch these guys because they get more shine than a lot of ours, and in terms of like stand up. And so you look at when I was coming up, who was the big comics, right? that were getting a lot of the heat. You had all those guys from Tough Crowd, Patrice O'Neill, Greg Giraldo, Colin Quinn, all those guys, and then Jim Norton, that whole Opie and Anthony crowd. Like that was the thing when I was starting, and that's kind of the direction where my comedy was going. But then the industry shifted away from that, almost like a 180. The industry pivoted away from that. So me doing the style that I've been doing, it's almost like, I feel like I've been holding it down,
right?
Keeping it true.
Dark age for that type of comedy, especially in my country, and as it swings back around again, it always does. Now I'm finding that I'm in a position where I'm one of the top comics at that stuff and where I'm at. So it's in Canada anyway. I mean, I do some stuff in the States, but I don't have the visa to go down there.
Right.
Yeah. So when I started out, I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And then I felt like because of the pressure to survive in stand-up that I had to learn to do the other stuff, to be a little bit cleaner, to play a little bit more acceptable so I could, get by and make money at it. And I do think it's important that I do think you should be able to do all that stuff. You should be, as a comic, you should be a weapon and you should be able to kill any room and assess that situation. If I go in,
versatility is key.
I call it the shawl count. If I go into a room and I see more than 5 women wearing shawls and they're like middle-aged, I'm like, oh fuck, here we go.
Yep.
Do a different type of act for those people. And it's sometimes it's as simple as taking a little bit more relatable material and front loading it into your set. And then maybe I slowly break them down. So it's I'll do like three or 4 jokes that are more relatable. Then I'll slide in something a little bit more hard hitting and see how they play with it. You just kind of, it's about gaining trust of the audience and acceptance of them. And then you can take them further. My whole thing is I want the crowd to laugh as hard as they can, no matter what crowd it is. Like, I'm not resenting the crowd right away if they're not my core demographic, right? Like, I want to kill with them and I want to take them to as far as I can take them with it still being fun. And sometimes, sometimes you roll the dice and it doesn't work that way or whatever. But when people talk about how crowds are too sensitive now, I don't think that that's true. I just think that there is now a guard that is up. They're much more guarded going into it. Whereas before, people were like a lot more loose coming into a comedy show. Now people are a little bit more conscious of laughing at certain things and looking around.
Yeah, they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. It's like, oh my God, I just laughed at that and that was like super like racist, or like that was like degrading against women, and now everyone's going to look at me like, oh my God, you think that's funny?
The thing that I think is most interesting about dark humor in general, right? Like, I'm going to come right out and say it. I have my entire life been a fan of dead baby jokes. Those are like the darkest, most horrible, fucked up topic of humor people can get into. But they make me laugh. And the thing that makes me laugh about it is that it is so ludicrously dark that you hear these jokes and the punchline hits you and you go, oh my God, that is so fucking ludicrous, it's funny. And then you have that brief moment of horror within yourself where you go, I'm an awful person for finding this funny. And that makes you laugh more. And I think that's what PCism has done to so many people, is we're afraid to see that in ourselves. That humor lies in us, that we could actually laugh at something so fucked up.
But you're not laughing at a dead baby. You're laughing at the hopelessness of the situation because that's all you can do. Like, there is this, I feel like a lot of my jokes come from like this, the despair and hopelessness that there's nothing you can do about these travesties that happen to us.
I think it's that, but I also think it's your swagger. Like, I watched your set before I got on this, and not only are you funny, but you have that old style true comedian. When like I grew up watching comedians or realizing what a comedian was, and it made me laugh. They had this swagger. They had this, like you said, I didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm like, that's what I'm there to watch. You know what I mean? Like, that's the true reality of comedy. It's like, it's going to get dark, but it's funny. You know what I mean? Like, deal with it.
They need that though. The crowd needs a confident person. So audiences, they want a leader, right? And they don't want a weak leader. They want someone that is confident, that is going to, that they can follow into battle. Because if you hesitate for a second when you're doing a dark joke, the audience can smell it on you. It's so like it's primal, right?
Oh so shit, he's gonna crack.
Exactly. If you tell a joke and they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, then you're fucked. They don't trust you anymore. And it, like I said before, it's about building trust. So if they trust you, that you're confident and you don't give a shit. And that's what was interesting about the new special Too Soon, is there's people that were fucking hating it in the crowd, and I didn't crack for a second. It was just, I know what's going on. But I also know when I do those type of jokes that there are people that the joke is designed to fuck with their head, and sometimes that crowd is at your show. Sometimes those people are going to be at your show, especially if you're not famous. You know, they're not just coming to see you; they just come to see comedy for some reason. They don't Google you or YouTube you. So sometimes they come to your taping of your special.
That blows my mind, right? Because like I don't see that with music much. Like people just don't show up at a bar that has live music to see who's playing.
Yeah, no, not
but
often.
Comedy? They got some comedian in there tonight. Let's go find out. Let's go see what's going on.
It's a disrespected art form.
My God.
I had one night where it was, and this is when I was working the material for Too Soon. It was just like on my tour leading up to when I was going to record it, and I was in. Well, I had this bit. You know what? I didn't even do this bit at the end of the special. It's supposed to be my closer, and I knew that the crowd couldn't take this bit because there were so many people. I mean, during that special, I walked at least 20 people. They had to carry a guy in a wheelchair out of the show. It was pandemonium going on in the crowd while I'm on stage, and I don't even realize all of what's happening. But there was a bunch of shit. There's a couple things we had to cut out because there's some disruptions, but it just didn't work with the whole flow of the special. But when I was working that leading up, I had this different closer, and it's about 10-15 minute long bit about straight white men and how everyone hates them. And if you watch Bill Burr's SNL monologue, he kind of glazes over some of what it was. It's not the same, but it's kind of
touching on the same subject matter.
Stuff. But so you can see what, people got upset by his bit. Well, people were really fucking upset about mine. There was, I did stand up at a brewery in London. I think they said the comedy's never allowed back at the brewery.
Fuck.
Yeah, they don't poison the community with alcohol, and
I mean that's a badge of honor, though. In your realm of comedy, like that is a fucking badge of honor.
Yeah, well, I was laughing. I mean, I'm never going there again, right?
Yeah. Okay, so where can I see this bit though? Like, I want to see this bit.
I'm gonna have to repurpose it. I'll probably put it some sort of variation of it because there's some like really strong stuff from it that I was happy with, and then there's some stuff that I thought like Burr kind of touched it, so I have to repurpose some of the jokes. I can't put out something
on it yourself.
Even though I was doing it well before that, it isn't on a special, right? And when a comedian's known and they get there in a much bigger forum before you have to kind of,
you have to bow down, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to. It's just the nature of the game. But anyway, so I go and do this the next weekend. I was at Ottawa Yuck Yucks. It was the next night. I was driving right from London to Ottawa. And I'm doing the Ottawa Yuck Yucks Club, and the Thursday night show was great. Crowd was loving it. I don't think I've ever had so much like social media support after a stand-up comedy show. Like so many people were just tweeting about it. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is a great way to start the weekend. The next night, it was all like everyone in the crowd that would hate me. All in the crowd
just showed up.
Huge bachelorette party. They're all sitting up front, scowling at me. It's just one thing after another, and it was to the point where like I don't even think I wasn't bombing, but it was a lot of stop and start. Like I couldn't build like a true wave of momentum that I wanted. I get laughs and then they pull back. I get laughs, they pull back. And that's a frustrating, way to do it. But at one point I did this joke, and this is how I knew everyone in the room was there that like wouldn't like it. I did a joke about Vern Troyer, Mini-Me, and how he died. And I said like everyone's sad about it, but I like to look at it on the bright side. Every time a midget dies, a monkey gets its wings. Oh. And I look down, I swear to God, after this joke, I look down and there's a midget sitting right there.
Oh, shit.
It's like you spawned one. It's like you fucking spawned one.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, she was not happy, and so I'm like, oh, that's just how it is, man. Like that's what tonight's gonna be, and then that ended up, the special was kind of like that crowd, except for there was more people on my side at the special. I thought.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking hilarious. I think that joke's hilarious though. By the way,
they're front row, the people that didn't like me.
Oh God,
that's usually how it works out, right?
Yeah. they were strategically put there.
Did you see the guy at the end? Did you see the freeze frame at the end? The guy
I haven't
that
got to watch
flips
it
me
all the
off.
way through yet.
I must have stopped it right before that.
Watch
Shit.
the end as I'm walking off stage. So during the show, this is the part that got cut out. This old man like flipped out, but it wasn't like a good interaction because he interrupted this bit that I had about Tiger Woods that I wanted on the special, and I was recording like the Late Show, so I kept the bit from the Late Show on the special, but he interrupts it and we get into a back and forth. He can't really speak English, so I don't know why he's offended. Like I don't like he just doesn't understand the jokes. Like he must just be hearing the profanity and that's like causing him to like have this reaction. But he was with the woman who I call out she's not liking the special. And so I think he was also like he felt like some sort of obligation to the women in his party to be this hero. You know
Defender.
that?
Yeah, I gotta defend everybody now.
Probably had a little liquid
Fucking
courage.
hero, right? And listen,
defended
like, I'll
fucking
wrench a
hero.
fucking old man. Like I'll one punch a 70-year-old man. That's nothing, right?
Straight Ip Man.
Yeah, I fight that guy. You know, on the way to fight old men. An old man like that, I go through him like COVID in a fucking old age home.
Oh man.
So, but I see he's still pissed off at the end of the show. I mean, like, because actually, this is the reason. Sorry, this is the reason why I didn't do the 15-minute bit at the end, because now I've been put in the position where I know I have to. It's gonna fuck with him way harder if I kill at the end as hard as I can. Whereas if I did the other bit, I knew that it's like that's a bigger coin toss on if I'm going to polarize the crowd. Crowd's already polarized. Now I want to win. Now it's like I'm like fuck this guy. I'm going to close huge. and ram it down his fucking throat because he doesn't like me, right? So that's the reason, the main reason why I bailed on that bit. Had nothing to do with anything other than, you know, what the timing of the show was, and you're like a quarterback up there and you're just making decisions on
Making
what
audibles,
Yeah, you're making audibles, yeah.
But I'm going, fuck this guy. Like I'm gonna end on something that's gonna kill, and he's gonna fucking hate that even more. As I'm walking off stage, he starts beaking at me. I just see him yapping, and I look at him, and I do the old school WWE wrestler move where I just blow kisses at him, like, because I know that's going to set him off.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even look back. I just keep walking, like just straight to the back, like you know, Johnny Hotshot, right? And he flips me off. And my camera guy fucking caught it. In the edit, he noticed that the guy flipped me off because I didn't even see it. So the way the special ends is it zooms right in on this guy's middle finger as I'm walking.
Nice.
I was like, that's the most punk rock moment that you could have on
Hell
stage.
yeah, dude.
Fuck yeah.
And I guess he wanted to fight me after and was like looking for me and doing the hold me back show. And
I'm gonna kick that comedian's ass.
I'm already up in the green room drinking.
Yeah, dude.
So if you got to like cruise all across Canada, like you said before that you know you've done a few things in America, but getting a visa is obviously more difficult than just like being able to work anywhere in Canada. Have you like toured across Canada or like made some
I've done
shows outside of Ontario for sure?
Of course, yeah. I've done BC. I've done shows up, you know, Vancouver. I headlined the Yuck Yucks there. Like the Yuck Yucks Comedy Club chain has clubs all over the country, right? So I've gone as far east as Halifax. I've done the clubs there. I haven't gone to Newfoundland, St. You know, all that stuff. I do want to do that though. But yeah, I've done BC. I've done Winnipeg Comedy Festival, Saskatchewan. So most of the places. I've done Montreal, and it's always.
So is
fun.
that like where you know your versatility comes in when you go? Because obviously, like regionally, things are going to be funnier than other things. So like if you go to BC, you might not make the same comments that you might if you were like in Toronto or in Ottawa or.
Yeah, like I try and write my stuff so it's universal, because ultimately you do want to crack it in the US or with the US audience, even if you're putting stuff online, right? So I'm trying to write jokes that are not too regional so that people will understand. Or if I'm writing a joke that's about where I'm from that is kind of regional, I want it to be understood by anyone universally. So there is a thought process that goes into that where I'm conscious of, okay, let's make sure that this is palpable for everyone. Now, if I go to a certain place, maybe I'll put in a couple custom jokes about where they are, right? If it's not a recording or something, because, you know, it's anytime you can do something in the room, it's going to hit big, right?
Yeah, if it's relatable to them specifically.
Exactly. They what I do actually is, I don't know, I can send you the video, but before I go to each city or each town, I do like a promo video, like a bad guy wrestler, where I'm just running down their town and telling people to come out to my show, and I'm going to ruin their whole night. It's just like a WWE villain. I have like a montage reel of all of these videos that I just put together, and it's fucking crazy. Is
that on your YouTube, or is that something that you?
It will be, yeah.
Nice.
Put it up.
I can't wait.
My video guy's just editing it together right now, but
that's gold.
Yeah, that's gonna be gold.
The Calgary, their comedy club wouldn't play they wouldn't share my video because they thought less people would come to the show. I'm telling the mayor to shove his white cowboy hat up his ass.
Yeah. That's great.
Oh, shit. So I'm curious, how did the comedy work lead you to doing the podcast that you do? Because your podcast is,
completely different.
Yeah, not exactly the same direction. I mean, I could totally see how having a comedian involved is a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
But how did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, so my podcast, Fight Stories. Well, I used to have another podcast that was called Rude Dudes, and it was with me and two other comics I'm friends with. And my other buddy, John Moses, who's a comedian, he's in New Jersey. He was up doing some shows with me and with Tom O'Donnell, who's my co-host on Rude Dudes. And we were just doing an episode of Rude Dudes together, and we just ended up telling all these funny fight stories. And John brought up the fact that he was going to do a comedy album called Fight Stories, where he tells two wins, 2 losses, and a draw. And he tells these funny fight stories that he's been in. And I was like, that's a great idea, but like, we're just doing this podcast. I think it would work as a podcast if we went and just interviewed a whole bunch of people. And because on Rude Dudes, when we'd have guests on, the fight stories were always the funniest ones. And so, or the most interesting anyway. So we just kind of were like, yeah, that's a good idea. So we would get together 2-3 weeks a year. I go down to New Jersey and New York, and we go around and interview people. And then he'd come up and we go on tour, and we go around to like different cities. And we'd be doing a show in like Kingston, Ontario, and be like, hey, who's the toughest guy in this town? And someone would be like, oh man, Pierre Moore, duh. We don't know who Pierre Moore is. He's just like this local street fighting legend. And everyone's like, oh yeah, Pierre, you don't want to fuck with him. Like, well, we kind of want to interview him now.
You kind of want to fuck with him.
The next day we're interviewing him at like the Best Western breakfast, conference hotel. Like,
fuck yeah.
And it's like one of the craziest episodes ever on the podcast. And so we just start accumulating all these stories. And the reason it works good with comedy is because we have so many comedians that we're friends with, and everyone has a fight story. The comedians are usually the most interesting guests because they can tell a story in a funny way.
Yeah, because they got the storytelling pat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So we kind of mix it up, right? We do, we have like pro fighters. So we have like Ken Shamrock, UFC, and then we have who else have we had? We had we have like NHL hockey fighters, so like Colton Orr, and we just had Trevor Gillies, who played for the Islanders, and all these wicked hockey fighters. And then we get like local legend street fighters. I don't know if you saw this one, Chris. Did you see the one or listen to the one with Brian and Mike McGee?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So they went to our high school.
Those guys are kind of legends, like from
two twin brothers.
We grew up, yeah, for sure.
That's hilarious, dude.
They're just like two twins that like literally they played
just
hockey, but they'd also just go to like house parties, and somehow they're just always end up being a brawl if they're there. I remember actually being at a house party once with those guys, like they were there, and some like other rival school like came, and they ended up like walking right into this house and grabbed the china cabinet and threw it on the ground, and the next thing you knew, like guys were swallowing teeth from like the McGee brothers. Like it turned into mayhem.
Dude. Those guys are terrorists.
Like they would fight grown ass men when we were like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, they'd be like fighting 35-year-old dudes like it was nothing. Didn't even care.
Jesus
Baby,
Christ.
straight beast mode, bro.
And I'm a bit younger than you, Chris, and so like I was in grade 9, and Brian was still in his last year, and Mike was out of school already. But like, so these guys were already legends by the time I came into school, and like that's who was like taking me around the school when I first came there. That's who I was hanging out with this guy who's like, everyone's afraid of him. And I just hear about, oh, you don't want to fuck with the McGees. Everyone's afraid of the McGees. And then I find out that the guy I'm hanging out with, who's the nicest guy ever, is one of those dudes. So yeah, they definitely had a reputation, and they definitely earned it. So they fit perfectly onto our show.
Wow. Now that's kind of a cool like opportunity to like pull somebody from childhood and just dude.
Oh yeah.
Dude, like I could think of some friends from back in the day that like would be fucking perfect for those stories, dude. Like there's this guy that we knew back in high school, and I can't remember what his actual name was, but everybody called him Neck. All right. Because like this dude, it was like solid, bro. Like his neck was wider than his head was. It was
he's
just
like that meme.
Dude, yeah, he was just all fucking neck, bro. It's like he went home at night and like put a chain around his head and just like strapped weights to it and just sat there and went like this all day. You know what I mean? Just lit. But dude, like I seen this guy get into some fights, bro, and I mean just clobber dudes. Like it was like Hulk smash status, bro. This guy was just crazy strong and big, but like if you like, as long as you didn't piss him off, he was a pretty cool dude. You know what I mean? Isn't that funny how it goes? Like usually the biggest, baddest dude is usually pretty fucking cool until you piss him off.
They're usually
and then it's like game over.
Well, like I'll never forget. There's a local MMA fighter around my way. His name is Chip Marazzo-Pillard, and
Chip.
I will never forget the story of this kid being at a house party with a buddy of mine. And the dude's like, oh, yeah, I hear that you're like, you know, like an MMA trained fighter. Like, I could kick your ass. And, you know, Chip, knowing he's dealing with a drunk, you know, reject, is sitting here going, yep, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you know, you're probably right. No, you're probably right. You could probably kick my ass. I think you're right. Finally, the dude, you know, gets his fucking male ego and his rage up, throws the first punch, and this kid, Chip, just grabs him and snaps his wrist.
Ooh.
Yeah, that would hurt.
And it was just because of what the kid knows, it was just like a no. And that dude wasn't ready for it. He wasn't trained for it. He was just a drunk idiot wanting to fight somebody. And
everybody's always got that one friend too. Like you take to the party or to the bar. He's not necessarily a big dude or whatever, but he's always the guy that goes and finds the biggest dude at the party after he's all like fucking smashed and has to go start some shit.
Yeah, goes and runs their mouth, you know?
Yeah.
And they're also the people that'll be like, I'm going to go find my biggest friend and get them, you know,
yeah,
to get
and
me
like,
out of
oh,
this.
dude, fuck you, bro. Like, I'm gonna go get my homie, and then gets all of us involved. And it's like, dude, I'm just out here trying to enjoy my beer and smoke a cigarette, you know, because that's what I was smoking at the time. I was like, bro, and he was also the guy that smoked more cigarettes than anybody in the group, but never had a pack.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He was that dude.
Those guys are the coat holders too. When the fight happens, they're not in it. They're just
coats, like, they throw one punch and then duck under and like
get him, Debo, get him.
Yeah. Cigarettes so they don't get squished.
I got you over here.
Yeah, hold your smokes.
I'll be behind the Pontiac.
But yeah, I remember when I first saw it, because you know I would see Tyler like here and there. You know, over the years, but it might be like a 3 or 4 year window, and then all of a sudden I'd be somewhere and he'd be there. Like the last time I think that I saw him in person was at like Carl's barbecue, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And you know, I just remember knowing that he was doing comedy and everything. And I think that it was like after that day, I was like, I'm gonna start looking for shit on YouTube of Tyler, because there's got to be stuff, you know, it's like it's 2015, 2016, and I was like finding stuff, because that day he was doing a show that night, as far as I remember. We were at the barbecue, so we were like having some day drinks, and then Tyler was going to go work later on that night. So I was checking it out, and I was like, dude, this shit's fucking hilarious. And I loved it. And then I started seeing that he was doing this Fight Stories podcast. And so I would, check out the occasional one, because sometimes, like, if I didn't recognize the name, it wouldn't like instantly make me be like, oh, I'm curious about this guy. But I remember when he had like Doug the Thug Glad on, who, for anybody out there that's ever seen the movie The Goon or Goon 2 or whatever, it's that story is based on him. And it was like a story based on a dude that like really couldn't skate, but he could sure as hell beat the fuck out of people on the ice. And so just watching it and seeing this dude, because in the movies, right, like they play him off as like a really like simple dude that like it's like he doesn't even understand emotion. Like, you know what I mean? Like
they took comedic license with it.
Yeah, and so when I saw like the actual person, he was like a reserved dude, and he wasn't like a real, like, for someone that had done what he'd done, right? From the skill that he had is impressive, right? But he didn't play it off like he was like cool, or like he had this like personality that he was a reserved dude. But it was interesting to find out, and just hearing him talk about the stories, and there's countless other ones that I've watched, I'm like, yeah, these guys are fucking hilarious. But I really like that. It's just like that different look at something that I've grown up with. Like, I'm Canadian, I like hockey. I've always liked watching hockey fights, going back to even when I was a kid, and you'd be watching your friends play when I was like in like grade 10 or something like that, and I'd be going to watch like John McClure beat the fuck out of some kid on the ice. Like
John
that.
McClure was so tough, man. I played hockey with John McClure, and when I was 18, he was my defenseman. I was a goalie, and that guy's one of the most intimidating people I've ever been around. He's so nice, but like he was really so nice scary. When he get pissed off, he's so intense.
You guys should have him on the podcast.
I would love to get John on the podcast. Yeah. I'm not sure what he's up to right now. I'll have to.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Shoot him a line.
If you're listening, John, they're looking for you, man. Get on the podcast.
That guy was awesome, man. I watched him beat up a guy when he was in the penalty box. No.
Like, who? John or the other guy?
John beat up a guy on the ice and then goes to the penalty box. And then this kid is like beaking at him when he's lined up for the face-off, and the guy turns his back to him, and John's right behind him in the penalty box. So John just throws a butt end of his stick right to the back of the guy's neck. The guy just collapses on the ground. Guy gets up and goes at him. John just rips this is when they had the full cages on, because it wasn't like junior hockey yet. Rips the guy's full cage right off and just throws it across the arena.
Oh my God, that's savage.
He was an animal, man. Yeah, him and Dean DeFebo, they're the two toughest dudes on my team. Two toughest guys I probably ever played with, like that were on my team. It was pretty fun. Here's a really funny story that I heard about like men's league hockey, which is always the funniest because guys are still holding on to the glory.
Yeah,
so there's these dudes. They're like, they would have been in their like mid 40s, maybe 50s. They're a bit older, and they go, these older guys. They go to a men's league tournament, and it's on the road, so they're all staying in a hotel, and there's probably 10 teams. They're all staying in this hotel, and this one guy, Billy, gets really hammered, and he's walking around the hotel, can't find his hotel room. So he's knocking on every door in the hotel to see if it's his room. And it's just a stream of people telling him to fuck off, right? It's not your room. Fuck off, buddy. So he shows up at this one room, knocks on the door. This guy's like, dude, it's not your room. Get out of here. I don't want you back here again, all right? Sure enough, does the laps again, can't find his room, comes back to the same room, knocks on it. He's like, buddy, it's not your room. If you come back here again, I'm going to punch you in the fucking face. Sure enough, Billy goes around the whole hotel again, right back at this door. Knock, knock, knock. The guy opens the door. One punch just buckles Billy. He's down, and all these people hear the commotion, so they're coming out of their rooms to break it up. Finally, they get him back to his room. It's a whole thing, right? The next day, it's in the morning, I think. They're at the arena. Games are starting up, and there's a whole bunch of people around there. And one of the guys on his team, he's like, hey, Billy, check it out. That's the guy that punched you last night, right over there. Are you fucking serious? He's like, yeah, that's the guy. He's like, all right. So he goes outside of the arena and waits inside the little vestibule where like the entrance doors, there's like two sets of doors. So he's waiting in there and sees the guy coming out with his hockey bag and just pounces on him, just boom, just takes him down to the ground and starts up the lawnmower, just punching this guy in the face.
Starts up the lawnmower.
And there's like some lady just like, stop it, he's only got one arm. And Billy looks up at her, he goes, yeah, that's the fucking one he hit me with.
He's only got one arm.
Oh man.
It's one of my favorite stories, man. I think that's classic.
Oh my god. Oh
He
shit.
got one arm. Yeah, that's the one he hit. Oh man, that's too good, bro. That is too good.
So yeah, when you get those type of stories coming out on the podcast, it's always a classic.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, because that's like one of those ones that's too good you can't make up. You know what I mean? Like,
do you have like dream
it's a true story. It's a guy from up where I live. My cousin.
yeah, you could tell just by how you told it, man. Like it's like you were literally like painting the picture from memory, dude. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's awesome, man. So that's kind of why Fight Stories works though for myself and John Moses is our comedy's kind of blue collar, a little bit, rough around the edges when it comes to content. And the people that like that type of stuff, that enjoy fights and that, and MMA and hockey fights, they're the type of people that don't really have an air about them. They like that type of comedy too. So it's like why Joe Rogan's huge, is people who, they like that type of stuff. They like that type of comedy usually. So it's kind of adjacent to what our stand-up is.
So do you have like a dream guest for like the Fight Stories podcast? Like, is there like a handful of people you're like, man, it'd be awesome if we had this guy, just because they might hold like a spot to you individually, or you just like see what they've done and you're like, oh my God, these people are fucking legends?
Yeah, there's a few people. I mean, I'd like to get my dad on the podcast because he's got a whole bunch of fights. Like, he's got a bunch of crazy fight stories, but he can never tell them because he's got a corporate job, right? But he's retiring in April, so I'm hoping we can make that happen. And then I just like having my friends' dads on, because dads always have the best stories.
Dude, absolutely.
An era where you could get away with way more shit. We had my buddy Warren. Well, I shouldn't say. Well, I'll just say, Warren Rigby. We had his dad on. And,
oh yeah, dude.
Bob Rigby is the man.
Yeah.
Bob Rigby is so funny, and he used to be a boxer in England and in Australia and stuff like that. And he just had some really funny stories. He smashed a guy's head through a popcorn machine at the Salty Dog Roadhouse. Oh my gosh! Chris and I used to drink there all the time.
Yeah, dude. They definitely served underage. Shout out to them, even though it's gone.
They definitely served
Salty
underage.
Dog Roadhouse. I did stand up there. That's one of the first places I did stand up. And little known fact, it's also, if you've seen the movie Tommy Boy, when they go and get wings, that's the restaurant, man. The Cluck Bucket is the Thirsty Judge. So
crazy.
I would always sit in Chris Farley's spot.
Yeah, no, actually,
Nice.
there's like quite a few
Brad.
movies I think that like the Salty Dog Tavern or whatever was in, because it was right on like a big, like, I don't know, I think that it was called Highway 27, but it was like a 55 kind of zone, like through connecting two different areas, you know what I mean? Like two smaller towns, or actually one was like a big town and the other one was a small town. And it was just right there. And you would go in there and the clientele would be anything from like young adults to like just pure alcoholics that are in their 60s or 70s or whatever.
The old man with the whiskey face.
15 years old, like, no question. It was
like,
awesome.
I've definitely seen quite a few chairs broken over someone's back at that place, or just like it turned into just pandemonium. But it was like, in a ton of movies. So like sometimes I'd be like driving by it and you'd see just it was fucking packed in the middle of the day. And it's because they'd be filming like the Tommy Boy thing, or there's another movie. It was like The Cutting Edge. It was a figure skating movie.
Yeah,
it was
Tommy Boy was filmed in Canada.
A lot of it was
parts of it.
Yeah,
wow.
The gas
they do a lot of filming in Canada and like Vancouver.
That's crazy
and
to think of. That's like one of my childhood favorite movies.
Well, yeah, a lot of Tommy Boy was filmed in our area where we live. So the gas station scene was at a place called Jessup's Garage, which is in Schaumburg. Yeah. My grandparents met Chris Farley and David Spade there that day when they were shooting, which is pretty cool.
That's dope.
They had no idea who they were.
That's even better. Oh, man. So then in that same vein of like dream situations, Dream comedy lineups. Any dream comedians to you that you would love to work with?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm fortunate I've got to work with a lot of them. I'd love to work with like Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr. Um, I mean, I'd like to open for Dice Clay sometime because, like, obviously, childhood hero. That's pretty cool. And
Absolutely,
I've
yeah.
seen how hard it is for his openers. His crowds are merciless to his openers. I watched him at in Toronto at Massey Hall, and the crowd was vicious. Don Jameson, who's a funny dude, he was opening, and they were booing him for the first half of his set, and he turned them around, and they're loving him. Like he twisted them back around. So I think that would be a cool crowd to open for a comic that I like. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, there's a bunch of people I'd love to work with, but I'd like to work with Christopher Morris. He's not a stand-up, but I'd like to maybe work with him sometime. He's a really good comedic personality and writer. He's kind of the guy who influenced Sacha Baron Cohen, I think. He has a show called The Brass Eye that's very, very funny still to this day. It was a 6-episode series in the UK. I believe it was on BBC. You can get it on YouTube, or you can find it for sure. But each episode was like a different theme, and it was like a fake news show. It was almost like fake news before fake news shows. It set the bar for everything. But he was one of those dudes who kind of remained anonymous because the power of his comedy meant people not knowing who he was or recognizing him. You see kind of what happened with Tom Green once he became such a household name. The style of comedy that he was doing kind of didn't work that way anymore because they would recognize him. It relied on him being that like anonymous person. So, and
Right.
he never really went into the costume stuff. So yeah, I do. I love Chris Morris. He'd be cool. He's an interesting, really sharp comic. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, I got to open for Doug Stanhope, and that was like the coolest thing ever. That guy's like maybe my favorite of all time.
So do you have like dream venues then that you'd want to go to?
Yes.
Take away from whoever you were there with, but like it'd just be cool to be like, I see my name on like the placard at this place, or I can say going forward that I performed at this place and killed it that night, or
Yeah, like I'd love to do the Comedy Cellar. I mean, that's obviously a pretty sweet spot in New York City. I'd love to do that. I've done a few of the big clubs though. So like I've done I did the Comedy Store in LA. I did Gotham in New York. I did Caroline's in New York. So I've done some of the really sweet ones. I'd love to do Main Stage Comedy Store though. I did like a roast battle at the Belly Room, and that was fun. But yeah, there's for sure a few places. I'm trying to think if there's anything that like nostalgically or whatever. I don't know.
like what are some of the biggest venues to do comedy at that normally do comedy in Canada then?
In Canada,
Is it all like mostly Yuck Yucks?
Yuck Yucks is the big club chain for sure, and then you have like Just for Laughs and stuff like that, and like that's a festival though. So like yeah, there isn't like big regular ones.
Have you got the opportunity to do Just for Laughs, or is that like something you want to do? Or
I did a thing at Just for Laughs. I haven't really done any of their galas or anything. I don't know. It's if it happens, it happens. You know, like I was kind of like on like a side show at the festival, but that was the one where I did the roast battle against Miss Pat, and that went pretty good for me. So, you know what, wherever I get put into the position, I just do as best I can there, and you know, enjoy myself. It's all about. I think a lot of comedians, what they have a problem with is they want to get certain things, and then once they get them, it's like, okay, I did that. You know what I mean? But it's for me, you have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy everything about it. You have to enjoy getting there, because if you're not enjoying the journey, then what's the point? When you get there, it's gone.
it's gone. Yeah.
It's one night. So I did Massey Hall, and that was like a big one. The Massey Hall New Year's Eve, that was crazy. That's like 3,000 people, and it's wild. So that was cool. Danforth Music Hall was cool with Stanhope, and I did it again with Andrew Schultz like the next year. And so that's really sweet too, seeing a guy like him blow up because he's a good dude and he's
he's blown up in like the last year. Huge.
I've been watching Andrew for a while, man. That dude's funny, bro. Funny.
Yeah,
dude.
he's one of the best guys I know in comedy. So like we've known each other since like way back. Like he came up and did my festival, and which I put on a festival up in Muskoka, north of Toronto, and so I've known him since like 2010. So to get to see a guy like hit, and like he's just on fire. I mean, he'll be the biggest comic in the world pretty soon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's no way.
Dude, he's like one of those guys. Like,
he just had fucking Alex Jones on the other day, and I was dying. He was like, interdimensional beings, go.
He's like one of those guys, like Ashton was saying though, that can do that crowd work like that, dude. Like I've watched like almost like a full special of him just literally playing off the crowd. Like that was nothing planned, just literally just went out there and just started talking and was fucking killing it the entire time, dude. The entire time.
Man. Super smooth.
Yeah.
He breathes comedy. So yeah, it's cool to like when he was in Toronto though, when we did his show, that's like as things are like really starting to pop. He sold out Danforth Music Hall, which is, I think was it 1,200 people or like 1,300 people or something like that. So, but twice in one night. So it's a lot of people coming out to these shows. It's lined up around the block. The year before, I think he had done 600 seats. So he went from 600 seats to like,
he doubled up
2,600 seats or something. Like it's pretty cool seeing the boom, boom, boom and being around it. Like I'm backstage just kind of hanging out. Like you're watching your friend realize his dream. It's pretty cool to see that happening and knowing that like if you put in the work, you can have some level of that, even if it's not the same. You can experience those things can happen if you do the work, and you know that this is a guy that did the work. He's not a guy that lucked into it, you know.
Right.
So is there like a real sense of community between like stand-up comedians? Like it's like I'm starting to gain a lot of traction and I really like this guy and he's my friend and I feel like he's on that stage that he needs to get to if he comes with me, even if he's opening for me. Is there like that, like I want to bring my friends up with me kind of thing?
A lot of guys do that. Yeah, I think that's definitely a trend. I think it probably has always been, but maybe a little bit more now with like the podcasts and stuff. I think a way that a lot of these comedians are getting popular is because of, comedy fans will migrate to, okay, this guy's friends with Joe Rogan, I'm going to check him out. And now I see this guy's funny, I'm a fan of him now too. And they've kind of built that kind of like that clique or whatever. That certainly was an LA thing, but you always kind of had that with like the Tough Crowd and Opie and Anthony, those kind of guys in and out, even though it was a little bit more, the New York style is a little bit more combative, a little bit more ball busting, with Patrice O'Neill and those dudes were always after each other a bit, but like that's like fun. That's friends just busting balls. LA's a little bit more, I don't know. It seems like they're not busting each other's balls like that. Not like the New York scene used to be. But yes, there is that culture of bringing up your friends, I think. And when you get to a position where you kind of have some say in it, like why wouldn't you bring your friends with you, because it's like that's who you want to be with when you're away from home on the road all the time. Like there's nothing better for me than when I have the choice to like pick who my openers are or whatever, or who's going to be on the show, because it's like it's going to be a good hangout instead of sitting in a hotel by yourself for an entire weekend. Now you got like a couple buddies and you're out having drinks and doing podcasts, and it can be fun,
Then there's also something to say about like when you do, and that in your guys' instance, when you do bring a friend along or something like that, they get better, you get better, because in the sense you're feeding off each other's energy. You're feeding off of the excitement and everything else that goes along with it. So it betters yourself and your friends. So it's like a win-win in both situations.
Exactly. And it just goes back to enjoying the journey. Like, these goals that you have, it's great to have those goals and it is great to achieve those things, but getting there, you've got to have fun. You have to enjoy it. Or what's the point? What's the point of spending all this time away from your family and being on the road if you're not going to enjoy what your job is,
Absolutely. Because I don't want us to run out of time without getting into this. You brought it up already. The comedy festival that you do.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely want to get a chance to talk about that.
Sure.
So how did you get started in doing your own festival?
Okay, so when I was 23 years old, I was doing shows in Toronto, and I ended up moving back up to Muskoka, which is where I'm originally from. It's 2 hours north of Toronto. It's kind of a tourism destination. It's a big tourism destination in Canada, especially. It's kind of like the Hamptons, but in Canada. So there's a lot of people that come up in the summer. The population triples, I think.
Right.
Summer. So it's a good time to have some like live events and some fun stuff for people to check out, because half of Toronto is already up there, right? And they're looking for stuff to do at night. So I decided, I had a group of friends, kind of guys that I went to college with, and we were all pretty good comics. We weren't getting those like cherry gigs at like the pro level yet, but we were kind of we were challenging for those spots. And I was like, you know what? It'd be fun to get everyone like a nice, good, like theater show, because we've been doing all these bars and just, grinding it out. It'd be nice, like a nice little reward to do a nice big theater show and then have a fun weekend where we're partying in Muskoka, which is a very nice place to be in the summer.
Yeah, you're just out on a dock, whatever.
So I started that, and I think, I was 23, and I started this festival, and then we sold out all the shows, and people were like, "You got to do it again." So I'm like, okay. So I did it again the next year and did it a little bit bigger and sold out, same thing. And then the third year we got the CBC people involved to bring one of their popular shows called The Debaters. And it was during the G8 Summit, which was in Muskoka at the same time. So we did like this World Leaders of Comedy event, and we sold even more shows. It was crazy. It just got like bigger and bigger. And it was really just like myself and my family was helping me. And then, my brother started working with me on it, and he's a really good sales guy. And it just got pretty big for a while. And then I dialed it down a bit because, like, my brother went off to school in the state. He's down in he lives in Florida now, but he went to school in Atlanta, Kennesaw State University. So he went down there, and I just kind of, we shifted a little bit into doing some of our own productions. So we started producing stand-up specials like mine, and I produced a few of my own albums, and they were successful. So once I figured out with my own stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable enough producing, and I found a really good young, producer named Tyler Shazma, who's also a comic. He's a funny dude that I can work with, and we can produce other people's albums and other people's specials. And so we started doing that. That's when we launched the Cottage Comedy Digital label, which is a record label and production company. So we started doing other people's. And we did Jarrett Campbell's album, he's one of my best friends. He was one of my co-hosts on Rude Dudes. We produced his first album, and it got nominated for the Juno Award for Comedy Album of the Year last year, which is the Juno Awards is Canada's Grammy Awards, basically. Canada always has, it's like, oh, this is the Canadian version of that. But,
yeah,
for American listeners, that's kind of, it's equivalent to that in Canada. So we got nominated for that. Like, that's our first album that we produced. And then we got to work with Mike Wilmot, who is like one of my heroes in comedy. He's the funniest. I mean, pound for pound, Mike Wilmot's maybe the funniest comedian ever from this country. Like him and Norm Macdonald and Derek
Norm
Edwards.
Macdonald's so fucking awesome. I actually watched like a greatest of Norm Macdonald the other day, which there's tons, but I always forget how much I fucking love him, and then I have this drive to watch Dirty Work.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Norm's phenomenal. I almost got to do a show with Norm too in Vegas, and he was headlining the main room at the South Point Casino, and I was doing the show Dirty at 12:30, which is there, and they're like, Norm might be dropping in, just so you know, like if Norm comes, you're going on after him. I'm like, oh fuck.
God damn.
That's like the type of challenge that like you dread but relish.
Yeah,
right.
He ended up falling
Like
asleep in his hotel room, I heard.
Nice.
His opener came in, I forget what his name is, but his opener is a nice guy. He came into the spot on the show, but Norm didn't make it down. That would have been cool to meet him though. He's one of my favorites of all time too. Norm's great.
Norm is a legend at this point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like every comedian, just he transcends comedy. He's that funny.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
it
then
just sounds like it.
and that's the thing, is he's got that power of delivery that's timeless.
Oh yeah.
You can watch early Norm, you can watch something that he's produced in the last 6 months, and it still has the punch, the wit, and
Yeah, I think that he just looks more gray now, and his like eyes are a little bit more beady. Like he's more like squinty. He just looks older. I actually had to check recently because I was a friend of mine sent me like a best of Norm Macdonald, and I was watching. I was like, dude, how old's Norm Macdonald now? Because like some of these he looks pretty old, and I hadn't really paid attention to him, and he's in his like mid to late 50s. And I was like, okay, all right. He's still fucking hilarious though.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't really
No
care.
kicking.
It's funnier and funnier, man.
dude, think about it. Carlin was making us laugh up until what, like the year he died.
Well, like
So-
stand-up's one of those things that if you actually do stick with it and like have that regimen, you're only going to get better as you go. If you keep doing, like if you let off the gas, it's something that you can definitely it falls away. But if you're in the gym, think about like, you know, how much better you get at anything if you practice. And comedy's not something that we really practice stand-up at when we're kids. So like musicians, you see musicians get famous when they're like teenagers or like early 20s. That's almost like their prime, because music is so tied to youth, but stand-up comedy's tied to experience. It's very rare for a comedian to come out of the gate like a prodigy, like an Eddie Murphy or whoever you want to, you know.
Pete Davis.
Pete Davidson's pretty young.
Yeah, Pete Davidson's
He
fucking
came on the scene
insane.
pretty young too, and he's
and-
killing it over there on SNL.
And he's got a fantastic delivery as well.
But that's true though. If you think about like most people that have blown up even in like the last 10 years, like they were blowing up in their like mid to late 30s, even into their 40s.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
All of a sudden they're big, and you're like, oh, okay.
A lot of them, it happens in their 40s. You look at all the guys, like who are the biggest comics, you know? There's like the guys who are still the kings are all in their late 40s or 50 in their 50s. I mean,
Yeah, and they weren't really household names 10 years ago.
Chappelle was a guy who came along young. He was a young superstar too. He was,
Yeah.
Chappelle's like 10 years older than me probably, but which is crazy scary. It makes you feel like shit. But like Doug Stanhope, he put out Deadbeat Hero when he was 37. Like I'm 37. That's like, I'm like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better about. I was really upset about this pandemic, and like I feel like I'm losing a year or more of like where I was like really dialed into. Feel like I'm just starting to come into my own, and it's like it sucks losing that year, right?
So what have you been doing to make sure that you're still keeping, all your shit polished? Like, are you just working on like Zoom calls, like you're saying, even just talking with friends, or like how have you been able to move forward? And even like last summer, obviously the Cottage Comedy Festival, like, did you end up doing one, or
couldn't do the festival, but we were able to do some like smaller shows. I have a bar up here that I do shows with called the Thirsty Judge. And it's like this little bar where you can put 50 people in there. And it is electric. I recorded two of my specials there, but we've recorded a few of our albums there too, because it's just so awesome. The sound is so good. But with the pandemic restrictions, we could only put 25 in, and we recorded 2 albums with only 25 people in the crowd, and they still sound awesome. So we're very fortunate that we were able to do those little shows there and have some fun. And there's been a couple outdoor shows, but I really haven't done much. I'd say I've maybe done like 7 stand-up shows in the last year. It sucks, man, like to not be able to go and do this. But I write all this stuff, and I've even been trying not to write stand-up because I get frustrated when I write a joke. I'm like, oh, I can't even do this on stage, but I know that if I could walk this on stage tonight, it'd be, murdering. But so I probably have accumulated a whole new 45 minutes. I could probably shoot a new special if I gave it, 6 months of steady touring, because I know I have the material, but I just put this one out. I was lucky that I put this one out during the pandemic, right? So my last one, I just recorded all that. I kind of had a clean slate going into this. It would have sucked if I had all that material that I've been working on and then had nowhere to record it and no outlet for it. And there's a lot of people that probably got trapped with that, and that's got to be the most frustrating thing. So I am fortunate in that regard. But really,
so do you think that like whenever things go back to or start to become a little bit more normal, more people are vaccinated and everything else, and like comedy clubs are going to start to like open back up and book people and shit, are you just going to be like, yo, like wherever it is, I'm there. I want to just go out and kill it. I want to try to make up for lost time and everything else.
It's gonna be wild when things come back. I'm going on a rampage.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like the like this whole break and with everything, we're gonna see so much resurgence in comedies. We're gonna see so many people coming out of the gate with so much good shit.
Oh, I hope so. It's going to be exciting. I just want to get back into the mix of it. It's all about being competitive with what the best is that's out there, right? And trying to top what's going on there.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, this has been an interesting opportunity, I think, for a lot of people to, refine certain skills, refine certain things that they're looking to refine, maybe build on new things. But it's going to be a huge blessing when we can all get back out there and put this art into motion again. Mm-hmm. Because that's probably one of the most difficult things of all right now, is that the art is not in motion like it should be.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a certain degree of like on, all the online stuff, like you do have to embrace it. You do have to try and do, like I did a coast to coast roast, which was like a roast battle tournament with different countries, or not different countries, different cities. And so like I did that online. There is like, you do have to embrace the situation that we are in now and, mm-hmm. and try and make something of it. I don't think that I was like as keen on doing like Zoom shows, like I was saying, but in terms of like stand up, but I was certainly like open to like the roast battle format that way and stuff like that. You do have to keep creating content in whatever way you can,
It's staying relevant.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a personal friend of ours who we had on the show a little while back. She does a folk music festival in the Philly area, and this year they put it completely online. And they basically filmed all the artists. People could buy the ticket, and then they were able to watch all the artists' performances. And they had like a week's window where they could go back and watch all the stuff and get it all in. But it's been a difficult challenge for a lot of people to adapt and overcome. And it is kind of cool to see that even the comedy community has found a way to adapt and overcome in light of all of this. And, I really do hope that the comedy clubs have managed to sustain this lack of business so that they can be there for the artists when it comes. Because I know myself, I'm plugged into the live music scene, and a lot of my live music venues are going away quickly. Yeah. And obviously, the comedy scene is reliant on a lot of those same venues. And so it's something that I really hope we can get back to sooner rather than later, especially comedy. Live comedy is something I think that even through the pandemic, as we're at now, we can have. I think we can have that back really quickly, because it isn't even, I don't think it's a big ask for a comedian to wear a mask and tell jokes. It's a lot, it's a lot easier than a guy up on a guitar and a drum kit and all that. It's a lot easier to do than for those guys. So we could have comedy back now.
Even the people like that are in the audience, right? Like when Tyler's on stage, he's never 6 feet away from anyone. So it's even if the people that are just watching, like if they had to wear a mask, like you can still laugh with a mask. Like if you can have live people that are like going to watch sporting events and they have to wear masks, and when they need to sip of beer, they pull it down and they take a sip of beer and you put it back up, you're good. But that's why I think that like maybe, by the end of the summer, even up here, because we're a little bit behind you guys in vaccinations, and we were a little bit more strict on like the rules up here in Canada. So like even by then, there's going to be a lot of people that are vaccinated. I imagine that there's going to be like 50% capacity kind of going on everywhere. It won't be like you have to go to certain municipalities that'll allow it.
Right.
Because even in the Greater Toronto area, like not every single area is in the same like colored zone. So you can go to some and they might be able to have like comedy clubs that are starting to open up at 50% capacity, but then there's other places that you can't. And it just might be that area that you can't is one of the better clubs to go to or whatever else. So hopefully by the summertime, things start to like really kick up and you can get back to just fucking grinding it out.
Definitely. I see some of the clubs are opening up again, like Ottawa and London are starting to open up. So yeah, hopefully it just kind of keeps that type of momentum going. But I do feel bad for these venue owners and stuff, because you know what happened. Like I can't believe there hasn't been a concentrated bailout by the government for these small businesses. Like they choked the life out of these fuckers. And I think the Ontario government, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I feel like there's like billions of dollars that are set aside in like an emergency fund. Like, why the fuck hasn't this been accessed? It's just because the premier Doug Ford is trying to, it's all about, having as much money for the government.
Well, even think about it in America's standpoint, man. The comedy store in LA shut down. Like the mecca for comedy shut down.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So like that it speaks volume, and like those are the kind of things that I think should be preserved. That should be like a museum. Like that shouldn't be able to be shut down. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
When there's that much art and there's that much magic that's been made in one spot over a matter of decades, that needs to be.
At the end of the day, though, those kind of establishments, like the thing that we take for granted is that we pay a ticket price to an event at a venue like that, and we assume that some of that ticket price goes to the venue, but we don't think about how much of that ticket price goes to the venue, and it's not really a lot. A lot of that ticket price goes to a lot of different places, and so that venue is extremely reliant on the sales by the patrons in alcohol and food, and majoritively alcohol, because the profit margin is the biggest there. Exactly. So without asses in the seats buying drinks, those venues aren't making money. They're just burning holes in their savings until they can't afford to do it anymore. And I hope to all of our listeners, today's show has really inspired you to get out there and support your local comedy scene, wherever you are. As soon as you have an opportunity to. I know it's inspired me. I'm going to be taking my happy ass into the city as soon as I can to go see a comedy show, because again, I come from that music background, and I think I've taken for granted the amount of work that the comedy scene has put in to be where they are, and I think we all need to show them some love too. So I'm urging everybody that's listening to get out there and support your local comedy scene. Go see a comedy show at your local comedy club, and buy an unknown comedian's next album. Maybe you buy Tyler Morrison's next album.
Yeah,
or you can even just go sub to him on YouTube, and you can see all the stuff like that we talked about that he said he's going to be releasing soon. Like that's all going to be there, so you can go check that out for sure.
Yeah, on YouTube it's Tyler Morrison, or you go to my podcast Fight Stories. We have all the stuff is on there, and cottagecomedy.com. Check out all the other artists that we've worked with to produce and put our gold stamp on, because we support good Canadian artists and just try and bring that to the masses.
Oh yeah, man. Hell yeah, dude.
Fuck yeah. We are always about community growth here on the Shedtime podcast. Absolutely. And I definitely support that. And since we're at the end of the show, and that was literally the perfect opportunity of plugging everything. It just happened organically. I'm going to go ahead and throw it to one of the other boys to plug their shit. So Mr. Janklin, tell him what it is.
Of course, huge shout out to Tyler for coming on and hanging out with us, bro. It was an absolutely just a blast of a podcast, man. We laughed, we learned some cool stuff, about, the comedy industry, kind of like behind the scenes and, what kind of got you into it and, to see where you're at now, dude. It's awesome. And I definitely think just from what we've been talking about here, you're going to be one of those guys that everybody needs to watch out for, man. So guys, go check him out. Go download his stuff. Go follow him on YouTube, all that. But of course, if you want, you can follow me as well over on my YouTube channel, Frame Shanklin Vapor. If you guys want to hear about any sort of vape products or anything like that, I do some reviews from time to time. If not, you guys can come hang out with us on Friday nights, every Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on my YouTube channel for the Green Room with Sean Typhon. And of course, my boy, Uncle Chris, aka Overdrip. So you guys can check us out there. And of course, Shedtimepodcast.com. Just go check it out, guys. Follow us on SoundCloud. We got awesome giveaways going, all that good stuff. And if you want to, help support me in what I do, you can check out, a Patreon link on my YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And if not, just come hang out, come show us some love, and just enjoy the positive vibes and, crisp high fives. And I'll go ahead and throw it over to Uncle Chris.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Tyler. I remember when we first started doing this and we were talking about, like we got these guests lined up and I was like, who do I know that would be an awesome guest on the show? And I instantly thought of you. I was like, I need to fucking reach out to Tyler and ask him if he'd want to come on here. Cause like we have not really talked about comedy on here really. And the fact that I knew a professional comedian, I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to like reach out to him, and you didn't disappoint. And also, I think that for all of our listeners out there, like you kind of get to hear how the grind works and like how you get to become a professional comedian. Like obviously we got the Coles Notes version, but just hearing like, your schooling background to how you, cut your teeth in it and just all the unique experiences that kind of come with that process is pretty dope. And obviously, like, I think that it's awesome that you've done so many other things, like with the Cottage Comedy Festival and the Fight Stories podcast. Like some of your podcasts of that show, they have a lot of fucking views. So obviously there's like an appetite for that. And I think that it's cool that you've really like hit in on that. And I feel like you were doing that even, at the same time or even before, like some of these other ones that actually have like these big time NHLers that are like blowing up, like Bloody Chicklets and shit, which I don't even think they're like getting away from some of that now because they're just getting so big. But I think that it's dope that you guys do that.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, Spit and Chicklets are huge. Like, I don't know how long if they've been around longer than us, but we've done. I think we're in season 3 right now. So
yeah, I don't know if they have but they're blowing up pretty big. But they have like right? star power. You know what I mean? And like people that have like these crazy connections and shit like that. So it is pretty wild. But I genuinely enjoy it. So thanks again, bro. Appreciate you taking away some of your Sunday afternoon in a beautiful place. And it's a sunny day here. So if it's a sunny day where you're at, then that means that you're missing out on a beauty of an afternoon.
It's all good. I love doing the show, guys.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it was good seeing you too. So yeah, if you guys want to check me out, like James said, Friday nights on Frame Shanklin Vapor, 8:00. Come chill with us, have some fun. Go to shedtimepodcast.com. Obviously, we got the giveaways just like James said. You can check me out on Tuesday nights on KVTV. For mixing it up. I'm pretty sure that this week we're going to be like mixing up recipes from a single flavor house just to get like we did the last few weeks. I think we're going to work our way through all of the flavor houses. So if you guys want some fucking bangers, come by and you guys can mix them up if you want. And you guys can check out my website if you want. Pick up some e-liquid. It's UncleChris.testinggrounds.com. Go get yourself some custards because they're waiting for you. That's everything for me. Ashton, go ahead. The order was different. Normally Ashton goes first, and that like threw me off.
No worries. But big shout out to Tyler for coming on. It's an absolute honor to meet you. Comedy is a huge thing in my life. I listen to it a lot. I actually wanted to be a comedian since I was a child. Cool. Yeah, I ended up being a painter. It's funny how it works out. But at the end of the day, it's awesome to get to see your work and get to meet you and actually ask questions to a real comedian. So hats off to you. Keep hustling and keep putting out the fucking cool shit, dude, because I'll definitely be listening from now on.
Well, thanks, buddy. Are you in Boston?
No, I'm out in Idaho.
Oh, okay.
And then, so if you guys want to check me out, Palmer's Powder's on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere else, or just Google me, palmerspowders.com, and you'll find some of the coolest powder coating you've ever seen in your goddamn life.
That's a fact.
That being said, moderation is key, motherfuckers. I'm out. Sean, hit him with the good shit.
Wow, we made it, and it's been a whirlwind ride. So one more time, thanks Tyler for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure and really insightful too to get that inner workings of the industry. We talked about it a lot with musicians, so to hear it from the comedy world is really, really insightful. And you guys already know. It's all things Shedtime with me, shedtimepodcast.com, Instagram, Shedtime Podcast, Shedtime Studios on YouTube. Plus, shedtimepodcast.com has all the other links for everything else that you want to know about us. Find it, find what you're looking for, check it all out. You'll be glad you did. And with all that, I'm going to bring it out like we always do. Remember, don't let the bastards get you down. Be cool, don't be a dick. And whatever it is you do, make sure you're having fun. It's the Shedtime Podcast, and we about to roll on up and then roll on out.